Afrika mischt die internationale Kunstszene auf. Viele Länder erleben einen kulturellen Aufschwung, beflügelt durch die Rückgabe wichtiger Kunstwerke, die einst von den Kolonialmächten geraubt wurden. Neue Museen entstehen, ältere erfinden sich neu. Die ebenso berühmten wie umstrittenen Benin-Bronzen. Der wichtigste Kunstschatz des Volkes der Edo. Einst wurden sie von der britischen Armee aus dem Palast des Herrschers des Königreichs Benin im heutigen Nigeria geraubt und an Museen und Sammlungen im globalen Norden verschachert. 179 dieser Artefakte landeten in den Archiven der Hamburger Museen, in denen sie, zumeist ungesehen, verstaubten. Nach jahrzehntelangem Streit um die Rückgabe der Benin-Bronzen ergreift die Hamburger Kulturbehörde die Initiative. Die 179 Artefakte werden erstmals der Öffentlichkeit präsentiert, bevor sie zeitnah an Nigeria zurückgegeben werden sollen.
If these objects, repatriated objects, go back to Nigeria, we have to make it in a way that people will have access. And I know a lot of Benin people and Nigerians will be trooping to come and see, these objects. So one of the things is for us to build a new museum.
We were in Germany last year to discuss almost 1,000 pieces of Benin works that are spread over Germany. We need to establish that these works belong to us.
Doch wer genau in Benin City Anspruch auf die Bronzen hat und wo welches Museum gebaut werden soll, darüber herrschen geteilte Meinungen. Der königliche Hof sieht seine Ansprüche in Gefahr.
A group of people wanting to divert these artifacts into their private scheme, let me put it that way. There is no way you can steal stolen property and make it unstolen. There's no way, there's no rationalization to say, oh, they now belong to the public.
Während die Zukunft der weltberühmten Kunstwerke nach ihrer Rückkehr heftig debattiert wird, sind die Erwartungen in der Stadt riesig.
We are waiting with a bated breath, joy, elation about the return of these objects. We are happy about it, that we are part of history. It's going to be glorious.
As an artist, I feel very fulfilled. That's something that became the main focus of my work. My trajectory as an artist is beginning to yield fruits.
This piece shows a contemporary woman, but a contemporary woman who has imaginations of what Benin was and used to be, to just show context of where we're coming from and where we can head to.
My name is Patrick Osafome Oronsai. I'm the grandson of Oba Eweka II and the great-grandson of Oba Vorame Nogbaisi. As a child, during the reign of my uncle, Oba Akenzwa II, 1933 to 1978, we spent a lot of time in the palace. We participated in all the festivals where all the chiefs come in their best finery to come and pay homage to the king. The king is seated there, wearing all coral bead dress. It's like wearing a body armor. And seated on the throne, is transmuted into a deity. The kola nut is the most important food item in our religion. In our religion, it's centered around one thing. We worship God. Agosa, we worship God. We also worship the king the way we worship God. Agobav and Agosa. I will pray in my language. Obokwe egbawa boko agbawa owenu wa yakin re o wa be yakin ari o wa. Ewa no ri oba yan do o atowo ba ope wo ba. E won o to se wo ba me wo pe se wo ba ba ilegbe ewe o. Oba atope. Say long live the king.
Die Dominanz des Königreiches Benin endete jäh mit der Kolonialisierung des Landes durch die Briten im Jahre 1897. Bis dahin herrschten die Könige über 700 Jahre lang gottgleich über ihre Untertanen. Ab dem 16. Jahrhundert kontrollierte der Ober den lukrativen Export von Elfenbein und Sklaven und herrschte über weite Teile Westafrikas. Von der einst massiv befestigten Metropole ist heute nicht mehr viel zu sehen. Patrick Oronsaye nimmt uns mit auf Spurensuche.
This inner aspect of it has not been touched for 500 years. 500 years. These walls have not been touched. So if you take a look at the trees, you can see their ages. It stretches 16,000 kilometers. And it took about 150,000 man-hours to build. And 37,000 metric tons of earth was moved in the construction. It would have taken at least 200 years. It's actually the largest man-made object in the world. This is the main entrance into the city, with guardhouses, with a gate that is open and shut, with custom officers that collects taxes and other charges. So you descend the hill, you get to the moat, you get through the gate, you pay your customs duty, then you walk straight. This road takes you straight to the palace.
Der Palast des Ober ist bis heute ein wichtiges politisches und religiöses Machtzentrum in Benin City. Die mit Kunstwerken geschmückten Schreine im Inneren des Palasts bleiben den Normalsterblichen zumeist verborgen. Dafür gibt das kleine Nationalmuseum von Benin eine Ahnung von der einstigen Pracht und Schönheit im Inneren des Palasts.
I visited the museum the first time in my life in 1964. I've been going there every time. I know every object. And in the last 25 years, I've been reinterpreting and reconceptualizing each of these objects. Those artworks are part of our very essence. Every object there tells a history. Every object there is a story. You can't understand it except you are a part of it.
The history of Benin is tied to the history of the monarchy. So once you tell the history of the monarchy, you are indirectly telling the history of Benin. We had to name it Oba Kenzwa because he was instrumental to the establishment of the National Museum Benin, because he helped us initially with a royal collection, which he gave us, and the museum then in 1947 became a repository of that collection.
Members of the royal family, since 1935, had been requesting for Benin bronzes. His Royal Majesty Oba Kenzwa II, he requested for 2 stools that were in the Berlin Museum in 1935, and replicas were returned to him 4 years later, which he had to pay for.
Die Sammlung des Nationalmuseums in Benin City besteht aus Kopien und bereits restituierten Werken. Vor allem aber setzt sie sich aus Stücken zusammen, die das Königshaus in den Jahren nach 1897 fertigen ließ. Auf dem westlichen Kunst- und Museumsmarkt sind sie deshalb weniger wertvoll. Zum Unverständnis nigerianischer Kuratoren.
So it didn't matter that they took away 5,000, 10,000, some years previous to that period. Oba Eweka restored that. Oba Kenzo perfected it during this very long reign. Any object that belongs to a royal collection in Benin is an artifact. So the objects he gave to us could have just come after 1897 anyways, and they will still be artifacts. So if the Oba wants to carry out a particular cultural event in his palace, he invites the bronze casters to come and observe. They go back to their workshop and now replicate the experience they just witnessed on plaques, on different objects, and produce them for the Oba's use. So over the centuries, all these things build up as a stream of information, a stream of oral narratives.
Die Gilde der Bronzegießer bewahrte mit ihrer Arbeit so die Geschichte des Königreiches, denn die Edo kannten keine Schriftlichkeit. Die Bronzegießer arbeiten bis heute für den Hof des Oba, inzwischen aber auch für alle, die sie bezahlen können. Der Meister der Gilde erklärt die ersten Schritte des traditionellen Bronzegusses.
This is a core that's already made on ground, the core of a leopard. The leopard has an historical significance in our own culture. This one is the wax. This one we are rolling now, we used to produce these beads. We used to produce these headgears and every other design. This one is an Ife head, an Ife masterpiece. So this is the way we use the wax to model out all these works. That's the process for these major traditional jobs. That's how it is done.
My name is Peju Laiwola. I'm a granddaughter of His Royal Majesty Oba Kenzo II. I'm an artist and art historian, and I teach at the Department of Creative Arts, University of Lagos in Nigeria. I conducted a lot of surveys amongst the Guild of Casters at the Gun Street. And of course, we discovered that they complained about the fact that they had no access to these bronze works that were in foreign museums, in the West, and so they had to resort to using magazines, journals, catalogs, and the internet as a way of referencing the works that were done by their forefathers.
Während die Nation die Rückkehr dieser Bronzen diskutiert, hat das Nationalmuseum in Benin City einen weiteren Kunstschatz ins Land geholt, der den Edo ebenfalls ein wichtiges Stück ihrer Identität zurückbringt. Die Ausstellung in der ersten Etage des Museums zeigt das lang vermisste Lebenswerk des Hoffotografen S.O. Alongi.
Alonges went to Lagos to get trained as a photographer and came back to Benin and got interested in the activities in the palace and got noticed by the Oba of Benin then, Oba Kenzo II. So that privilege plus status gave Alonge an inroad into so many activities. In addition, he had a studio in town, the Ideal Studio, where nobles and commoners alike went, to have their photographs taken.
Alongis Werk war vor Jahrzehnten vom Smithsonian Institute in den USA gekauft worden. Die aktuelle Ausstellung ist ein Gemeinschaftsprojekt und löst in Benin City Erinnerungen und Emotionen aus.
So Smithsonian felt that it would be easier for these photographs to be identified in Benin than in Washington, D.C. It was a lady who came, Agbe Davis, I can remember the name now. She came and saw the photograph of her mom. She ran towards this flex photograph Before our staff could say, don't go, don't go, don't go, she had gone and grabbed the photograph and rubbed all the makeup she had with the tears streaming down on the photograph. So if you go to the photograph, you see some blotches, like what you may think are stains, but we see them as ethnographic marks because this is what we are looking for. We want to make our exhibition as interactive as possible.
It was that period of transition from the invasion through to the Second World War. And so those images were quite important. I mean, we're glad and we're thankful to God that we had somebody who had the genuity to capture those images. And they help us explain that cultural transition from where we're coming right through to hopefully, where we are today.
Der Hof des Gouverneurs des Bundesstaates Edo, das staatliche Machtzentrum von Benin City. Mit der Rückkehr der weltberühmten Kunstwerke verbindet der Politiker große Zukunftspläne.
We're going to receive them. We also have to prepare the place for them so that we can preserve them. And that's a project that we're working on. So part of the design of our government is to make Benin City the culture capital of the continent. We're planning a cultural district where we will host museums, galleries, and other spaces where people can exhibit and produce art.
In Benin City lässt sich der Aufbruch in eine globalisierte, digitale Moderne ebenso beobachten wie die Renaissance alter Traditionen. Ein kulturpolitischer Konflikt, der durch die bevorstehende Rückkehr der Bronzen zusätzlich befeuert wird. Dass Moderne und Tradition aber keine Gegensätze sein müssen, belegt eindrucksvoll die Gilde der Bronzegießer in der Egun Street.
I am a contemporary artist stroke traditional artist. You understand? So you can mix tradition with contemporary styles. This is contemporary methods. Because this is a resemblance piece. Going to look exactly like the person. So we are producing this man.
Während das moderne Auftragsporträt eines wohlhabenden Bürgers Form annimmt, werden die Vorbereitungen für einen traditionellen Bronzeguss getroffen.
The work is already inside. This is the wax. You can see the wax. So by the time you heat, by the time you preheat, the wax will run out. So that is why it's called a lost wax method, serré perdu. There is a discarded metals.
Der heutige Hof des Oba von Benin. Der Gebäudekomplex wurde während der Kolonialzeit schrittweise wieder aufgebaut. Bis auf eine einzige Mauer hatte die britische Armee den alten Palast bei der Invasion im Jahre 1897 dem Erdboden gleichgemacht.
We don't want to dwell on the wrongs of the past, but moving forward, we'd like to see some sincere recompense. The Germans and the British hold the largest number of these works. They should take the lead.
Die Briten raubten die Kunstschätze des Oba. Deutsche Spediteure und Kunsthändler verschifften sie nach Europa und sorgten für den lukrativen Weiterverkauf an Museen und Sammlungen.
It was premeditated. I remember the write-up, Philip told the British government that there were enough ivories in the King's Palace to pay for removing him from the stool.
The British already knew there were priceless things in Benin. The primary objective was to gain control of the trade routes. They did not want to trade under anybody's terms and conditions. That was their way. Beninese never really believed that the colonialists who attacked Benin were superior in many regards, but they had the guns, and their guns have been described in so many ways. The gun that sounds 2 times and things like that, you know.
Die Rückgabe der geraubten Benin-Bronzen aus europäischen Museen nach Nigeria legt nun den Konflikt zwischen den Machteliten Benins offen. Die königliche Familie ringt um ihren Einfluss.
When I heard that Obaseki floated another company and they were going to build another museum and they were raising money. And like I said, he never got back to the Oba, never told the Oba nothing. Then at a point, the Oba had to now hold a press conference, which was televised and was streamed worldwide.
Anawa collaborate with the palace.
Im Vergleich zu den modernen Visionen des Gouverneurs sind die Museumspläne des Palastes deutlich konservativer. Ein Teil der Artefakte soll nach ihrer Rückkehr wieder ihre rituelle Funktion im Palast erfüllen.
They are concrete lands. As a matter of fact, there is a smaller museum within the palace for private viewing. But the real museum, the Benin Royal Museum itself, will be located outside the palace.
The concept of the Benin Royal Museum had been in the pipeline a long time. So I envisage that a museum should be built in Benin, and it's very important that the voice of the King of Benin is brought into perspective, because these works were removed from the palace.
Wie auch immer dieser Konflikt ausgeht, in der Fantasie junger Künstlerinnen und Künstler sind sie bereits sehr lebendig. In einem unbewohnten Hochhaus im Zentrum haben einige ihre Ateliers eingerichtet.
I wanted something that related to me or affected me as a Benin person. So I interacted with the bronze casters in Igun over time. And as you know, the whole process of bronze casting, you have to use the earth to create your model. The whole process of rendering terracottas, you also have to use the earth. So I'm like, okay, why not experiment with the earth, with paintings? And that's how I started infusing both sand and acrylic to make my medium paste, which you can see on the canvas right now. Then I also go through the process of taking the mold, going through the process of paint waxing. So I also use the beeswax as well as the people who cast bronze in Igun Street. So when I'm done with all the process, I now take it to the foundry in Igun Street and they do the casting there. And yes, over time they've been very supportive.
Bei den Bronzegießern in der Igun Street sind die Vorbereitungen für einen klassischen Guss getroffen. Im Inneren der Form das Negativ der Kopie eines Kopfes aus der nigerianischen Königsstadt Ife aus dem 12. Jahrhundert.
It looks magical, but it's real.
Das modellierte Wachs ist jetzt aus der geschützten Form ausgeschmolzen. Nun wird der Hohlraum mit der flüssigen Bronzelegierung gefüllt.
It's okay, it's filled.
We want to first cool it so that we can open it for you to see. After casting, we remove all the sand, both the ones for the core. That's the process, and we're done with that.
Große Kunst mit traditionellen Techniken. Dem Besucher aus Europa bleibt die Rolle des Beobachters. Ebenso wünscht man es sich hier für die Planung der zukünftigen Museen in der Stadt. Restitution und Kompensation? Ja. Einmischung? Nein. Denn egal wie die Präsentation der Benin-Bronzen nach ihrer Rückkehr aussehen wird, für die Nation der Edo und das Land Nigeria beginnt mit ihr eine neue Zeit.